Welcome to the D-Shift podcast, where we provide inspiration, motivation, and education to help you transition from the challenges of divorce to discover the freedom and ability to live life on your own terms. Are you ready? Let's get this shift started. Hello, and welcome to this first of the Christmas season episodes of the D-Shift podcast. And normally I don't do a lot of themed or specialized kind of podcasts, but I think it's really important that we highlight some of the challenges that people in divorce or post-divorce may be facing over the holiday season. Whether you celebrate Christmas or whether you celebrate another holiday, it doesn't really matter. Or even if you don't celebrate anything, this is still a very stressful season for most people. So I have the perfect guest to kick this all off. So I want to introduce you to somebody who I just love interviewing and I have learned so much from, Cheryl Wright. Cheryl L. Wright, she's a best-selling author, speaker, and empowerment coach, and she helps others recognize narcissistic abuse, break free from toxic relationships, and reclaim their identity. She's also got a great book out called Swimming with Alligators, and she shares her personal story of transformation to inspire others to pivot from pain to purpose and choose healing, strength, and self-worth. Cheryl, I'm so glad you're here and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me today, Marty. I'm really happy to be here with you.
And I think as we were just talking before we started recording, I think you are the perfect guest to kick off this holiday season or this winter season, because again, this can be a time when a lot of things really start flaring up. So before we jump into that, Cheryl, can you just tell people a little bit about yourself and why you have chosen to focus on helping people deal with this narcissistic abuse?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. I have lived with narcissistic abuse throughout my life. So I've definitely experienced it with family. I've experienced it with partnerships, romantic relationships. I've experienced it many times over. Unfortunately, because I didn't know what it was. And so my goal was to really help people recognize and understand what it is and hopefully not go through these repeated cycles of choosing the same kind of people to be around.
Yeah, because there's a lot of research that talks about the fact that, we're not necessarily attracted to that personality type, but it's a comfort. It's something our brain knows, our brain recognizes those patterns. And so our brain moves to things that are even unhealthy and uncomfortable and even dangerous for us if they are comfortable for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And also one of the tricky things about narcissism is that it masks itself as well. And so, if you saw some of these red flags right away, you might be like, oh, I would never get involved with that. But it's so smooth and it's such a transition that sometimes you're well into it before you've realized it.
Yes. And you're right. Nobody, I really firmly believe that nobody goes into a relationship and goes, this is going to be terrible, but hey, I'm just going to jump into this relationship anyhow. And you're right. Narcissists are very clever at disguising their behaviors for limited periods of time, which is why they tend to rush relationships, because if you hang around them for years and years, you figure them out.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't stick around that long.
So since we're focusing on the holidays, and actually before we jump into that, I'm going to ask you, you also wrote a book called Swimming with Alligators. Can you just talk a little bit about your book, and then we're going to jump into the topic here?
Yeah, thank you. So I wrote the book and I called it Swimming with Alligators. And if you read it, you'll see there's a story in there. When I was a child, we actually did swim in the river where alligators were present. But I made this connection that narcissists and alligators have a lot in common. And I definitely go into a lot of details as to what that is. But the ideal thing is that you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And they don't care about your feelings. Alligators don't care about your feelings, and narcissists don't care about your feelings. And you're going to get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do that comparison. So the book itself is memoir and teaching. So I walk through a lot of information about narcissism. What is it? What does it look like? What are the types? And then I relay it with a lot of personal stories as well that really kind of back up what that what that learning is, and this is what it looks like in the real world.
Right. And I think, I always throw this out at the very onset of anyone where we're talking about mental health issues. We're not, neither Cheryl or I are mental health professionals. We're not providing any kind of diagnosis or treatment options or anything like this. And I always throw this out here too. So if you listen a lot, you might think I'm a broken record here, but even though narcissists aren't typically diagnosed because they don't think there's anything wrong with them, so they don't go for treatment. And even if your partner isn't narcissistic, if they're in that cluster B personality, if they're sociopaths, if they're psychopaths, if they've got a few other things going, borderline personality disorder, all of those things kind of grouped together, these kind of behaviors will exist in those kind of mental health situations as well. So don't get too stuck on the word narcissist. Just think, I always encourage people to think of anytime you're dealing with toxic people that really don't give a damn about you and they're all there for themselves. So I want to focus on that. Cheryl, since we're talking about the holidays, what is it about this season of the year, again, whatever you celebrate or don't, why does this holiday season tend to trigger heavier use of narcissistic behavior for those that are more likely to be engaged in that?
That is such a good question. And it's going to boil down to some pretty simple truths. And that is that the narcissist needs to be the center of attention, period. They don't have empathy for anyone else and what they feel. So they're not going to feel what you feel. It's all about being the center of attention. And when the holidays come around, there's a lot more going on. You might be hanging out with friends or family, or if you have kids and you're dealing with presents and decorations, and you could be dealing with any myriad of things that take the spotlight away from the narcissist. And it's a very dramatic need that they have. I think deep down from studies, they're very, very insecure, and they definitely need to be fed. Their ego needs to be fed. And if you turn your attention away from them, this is going to create stress in them, and they're going to turn around and try to make it so that in order for them to get their needs met, they're going to turn it around and try to draw lots of drama, right? So they do thrive on holiday chaos. They will set traps for you. They will minimize your feelings. They will do a lot of things. I read a link that says it's a lot like the Super Bowl. Like the holidays are like the Super Bowl for narcissists, because there's an audience, there's a lot of high emotions, and there's lots of opportunities for them to try to control the spotlight.
Yes. And I think you just hit on such a good point that these are people, adults, that need to be the center of attention at a time when we typically think it's all about the kids if we have children. And so what I have in working with clients who are divorcing these toxic people, what I tend to hear from them is that the narcissist will intentionally disrupt the child's experience of Christmas, will create family chaos, will go out of their way to gaslight, manipulate, just totally tear down whatever plans you have so that all of your attention is focused on them.
Yeah, absolutely. They will hijack traditions that you have. So maybe you've always opened a present a certain way, and then suddenly they're going to change it. No, it has to be a different way. Or they're going to play the victim, like, oh, nobody cares about me. It's all, like you want to put your focus on giving. This is the season of giving, but then they're going to be like, well, you didn't give anything to me.
Right. Right.
They will triangulate. So what that means, they're going to pull other people into the drama to pit family members against each other. This is common. You get infighting going, and then they sit back and watch the drama.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you've had this happen in the past at Christmas and you've kind of gone, well, gosh, I wonder why that's happening when our family gets together. Maybe it's actually with one person in the family group that is creating all this. Now, there can be more than one narcissist in a family at the same time. That's for sure, right? So let's talk a little bit. Something that you talk about is these emotional traps that can come up. Can you talk a little bit about what are emotional traps, and is there a way to recognize them before you step into them?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things they're very skilled at is guilt trips. So the guilt trips are going to be maybe something like, well, if you really loved me, you'd spend Christmas with me. It's me and my family, never mind your family. Never mind that, you saw your family or you haven't seen your family in 3 years, but it's still me and my family. They're going to guilt you into that guilt. They're very, very adept at the guilt trips. There could be financial manipulation. Maybe they control the finances and you aren't allowed to do as much as you would like, or maybe it's the other way around where they decide to shower you with an extravagant gift and you think, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to compare to this. And you have to realize they're not necessarily giving you this gift because they really care. They're giving it to you because it's a showmanship, and it's because it creates a tie. It creates there's another word for it when you owe them, right? It creates this thing where now you owe them. You can't, I lost my word on that, but
No,
anyway,
no, I know what you mean. It's like, look at what I've done for you, and you have done nothing for me. There's no reciprocal kind of thing. They're looking for something, right? I can't find the word either, but I know what you're saying.
there's a word for that.
Old speakers and we don't know words. That's always helpful. But I do really appreciate that whole idea of this one-upmanship with the gifts and stuff. What might be something else that you should, or maybe some red flags, like anything you want to throw in there, Cheryl, to help people?
Yeah, so it may be that they're pretending to be the best doting parent. Like in their public persona, they're going to make it look like they are the bee's knees, right? They are the most doting parent or romantic partner, caregiver, things like that. And then maybe if someone's not looking, they're going to turn around and undermine you. Maybe say something insulting to you, something that just continually keeps you walking on eggshells because you don't know when is the hammer going to hit? When are they going to? Or I used to say, pull the rug out from under me.
Yeah.
Right? Things would be going fine, and then all of a sudden, the rug got pulled out from under me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you find too that sometimes it even has to do with, they will tell you you look absolutely wonderful when you leave the house, and then when you get to the Christmas event or whatever, the holiday event, they say like, why are you wearing that dress? That you look terrible in that dress, or why can't you dress up nice like everybody else does? I even had one client who said her husband she would dress like how she felt comfortable, and he'd say, oh no, wear something that's a little lower cut, or wear something that's showing more skin. And then she'd show up and he'd go, you always look so slutty at these things. Like, do you think, is that the kind of behavior you might experience?
That very much so. I have been told similar things before. I was told, I don't like those pants on you because they make your butt look big.
Yeah.
Like, why would you say that?
Yeah. 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 So what about, I'm wondering, how do you prepare like these red flags and these things? Like, what can you do? Let's say you're experiencing them, or let's say right now you're just like, yep, I already know he's a grandiose narcissist or a covert narcissist or whatever it may be, whatever kind of narcissist variety you've got in your life. What can you have a process, a 3-step or a 3 compartment, 3-pillar way of dealing with this? Can you share a little bit how you might be able to put that into play to help yourself?
So the first step in my 3-step process is to recognize. And that is the most important key. It is key to recognize. You can't do any of the other things if you don't recognize what's happening. So you want to ask yourself questions like, who's usually setting the tone of these? Who usually sets a tone around the holidays? Is it me? Is this something I actually really want? Or am I doing this out of guilt? Or, things like this. You can ask a lot of questions, watching them. Who is really trying to make a good show here? Things like that. Recognizing that the holidays are going to, no matter what, especially the holidays, everything's going to revolve around their needs. So you want to start really paying attention to, I thought we were going shopping for the kids. Why are we changing directions here? Or it might even be something as simple as we discuss and we agree these are the gifts we want to get for the kids. And then at the last minute, they're like, no, I want to get something different. Or they'll just go out and get something different and be like, well, I thought this was better. So they just little things to undermine, even if you've agreed on things, they're going to do that. And you'll notice that they start to get agitated or stirring a little bit of tension. And I think one of the key signs is just seeing what's happening in yourself too. Like your body will feel it probably before you actually recognize it in your mind. Am I feeling like I'm walking on eggshells? And sit back and think, well, okay, what's happening that is causing this anxiousness or uncomfort or guilt or whatever the feeling that it is? There might be something to that.
I think that's really important because, I've never been in a narcissistic intimate relationship, or I don't believe I have, but I've worked with narcissists and for narcissists. And I know when you said that your body quite often senses something's wrong. Like I can remember knowing that there was going to be a staff meeting and just like getting up that morning and already feeling nauseous, getting a headache, feeling that stiffness in your back and your shoulders. And I haven't even got to work yet. I was already feeling that way. Yeah. So it's very true how your body signals that stuff. So I love
Very
that.
much.
Recognize what's going on. And then the next one is the next one
So
of your,
the next step is to retreat. And so it starts with, first of all, recognizing that it's not your fault, right? You're not too sensitive. There's nothing wrong with you. You didn't plan this. All this guilt that you carry and wondering if you're the problem, you're not. So retreating is about setting a lot of boundaries, especially that are going to protect you. And this is not running away or disappearing. Sometimes in the most serious of conditions, retreating might mean running away, but we're not talking about that drastic thing at this moment. But this is creating a healthy space so that you can preserve your own energy and your own peace. And that might include things like just limiting the exposure. Maybe if it's not a romantic partner, it's a family member or something, you might have a better opportunity to limit your exposure. Maybe instead of going for an all-day gathering, you set a time limit. You go for an hour, 2 hours, and you're clear in advance. We're going to be there from 3 to 5, and I have other commitments. And then you've set your boundaries, and then you stick to that. Another thing might be having an exit plan. So maybe if you feel like you could get trapped there, drive yourself so that
yes.
you have an opportunity to leave when you want to leave. I was in a relationship with someone who was an alcoholic, and one of the worst things is to get trapped and you can't leave and they can't drive and you have to wait because they need a ride and things like that. So ways to figure out, your needs and protect those. If that means leaving early, if you need to. And then also another thing is try to stay neutral as much as possible. Since they thrive on chaos and they will thrive on, trying to start an argument and make you look bad, they will push you till you react to make you look bad.
Right.
As much as possible, just try to be neutral and try to avoid getting baited into a conflict. If they say something that stirs an emotion in you, you can just, okay, I hear you. Cut
Yeah,
it short.
I love that. I think that is so important because, if you've been in these relationships, you're very sensitive. You're hyper vigilant. There's a lot of changes in our brain chemistry when we're in these highly toxic relationships. We become this thing called hyper vigilant, right? So we're super aware of their slight tone changes and everything else. So then we sometimes react, and then everybody else looks at us like, wow, that was way overreaction. But they don't know what's really going on in the dynamic. So
Right.
I love both of those, setting boundaries and creating an exit strategy, and just being able to talk yourself sort of down off the ledge if you find yourself getting triggered by what they're doing.
Yeah.
So important. And the third one, Cheryl.
The third one is resolve. Now, resolve is something that it's resolve means to come to a conclusion, to come to a definitive conclusion. So when you establish resolve, you are stating something for yourself. This is for me. This is protecting my peace. This is for my own self-healing. This is for my own joy. And what this is kind of after the boundaries, but then you do things to protect your own self and to help yourself grow. So this might be something along the lines of creating your own traditions. Maybe you want to light some candles or practice mindfulness or watch a favorite holiday movie. So things like that, things that bring you peace and joy. Maybe start with a gratitude practice or a joy list. I was thinking about before we met today, I was thinking, you know how we always do, not always, but many people do an advent calendar,
Yes.
right? Well, what if instead of getting a piece of chocolate, you have all these really nice little joy or notes that affirmations that you've written for yourself. So your advent calendar is this really motivational thing. I thought about that today. I thought, I think I'm going to do that this year.
I think that's a great idea. And, there's so many things that you could do. Yeah, I love that idea. That is wonderful. And I think that's so important, especially if you're if you're single over the holidays and maybe maybe you're in the separation phase of your relationship. It can be kind of hard. It can be very hard the first couple of years. So having those things that you can do, because you're going to run into them, you're going to have to do exchanges of the kids if you have children. And even if you don't have children, these are the kind of people that tend to show up at events, even if they're uninvited, if they know you're going to be there, right? So
Yeah.
having these ways to create this sense of peace and joy for yourself over this season, I think is so important.
It is. It is. And another thing that really helps that I think people maybe don't give it enough credit is volunteering. Helping other people does so much for you internally. It's amazing. One year I learned about a couple, I learned about them from my mom, but there was a couple that they were really, really struggling, and I didn't want them to know it was me. But I went out and I bought an entire Thanksgiving spread, put it all in a box, and left it on their doorstep. And just little things like that, maybe volunteering to serve food for the homeless, or maybe visiting at a nursing home, or things like that where you can give to other people who might also be having a hard time during the holidays. It is so rewarding, not just for them, but for yourself immensely.
Yes, and there's a lot of research on that. I was just reading a study on that about how even just doing something as simple as holding the door open for somebody, and if they thank you or smile at you, it releases dopamine in your brain, and it gives you that sense of, wow, I feel really good. Just try it, see what that.
Yep.
But I love that idea of giving back to other people, and that's even something you can do. If you have kids, I think it's wonderful for kids to learn about volunteering and serving others, and even if it's only one. Even if it's Christmas Day, you go and go to a soup kitchen or serve food, like you
Right.
say.
Right.
There's lots of organizations that need people to deliver Christmas gifts to kids and things like
Right.
that. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's companies like Operation Shoebox where you pack shoe boxes that get sent over to other places where they need gifts, or maybe there's an angel tree,
Right.
something like that, where you can pick a name and you can buy gifts for a child that might need that. So there's lots of ways to do that.
Right. And like you say, filling up your life with peace and joy doesn't have to involve money. You can do a lot of these things
Yeah.
at no cost to yourself or low cost.
Yeah.
You don't have to buy things. You can personally go and volunteer to be a volunteer, be a helper, be a support
Yeah.
person in an organization. So,
Yeah. I had even volunteered one year to visit a gal that was in a juvenile detention because she was there for doing something and learning her lesson from it, but nobody was visiting her. And so that might be something we don't normally think of, like, oh, these young kids, maybe they could use a little joy this time of
right.
year as well.
And the other one, and you mentioned it already, but is, it's so sad. There's so many people in nursing homes where they don't ever see anybody. And it's just 10 or 15 or 20 minutes of your time. Just drop in and let them know that somebody's thinking about them. That makes a big difference for them.
Yeah.
Cheryl, you have shared a ton of information. And I think I love that, recognize, retreat, resolve. Those are easy things to remember. But I love the fact that you said the key one is recognizing before you can do the others. So out of everything we've talked about, what is the message you want people to remember for this holiday season?
I think what I would really like to drive home is just really understanding that narcissists, especially around the holidays, are going to thrive on drama, guilt, and manipulation. But you have the power to not get pulled into that storm, starting with recognizing those patterns. Once you start recognizing them, that is the first step to setting a boundary even. Oh, I know something is happening. Then you can retreat by setting these boundaries and protecting yourself and your own peace, coming up with your own traditions, whatever it is that you need to do, and then resolve, really establish that resolve within yourself to protect your peace. And that way, hopefully you're stepping out of survival mode and stepping into a season of joy.
Yes. Oh, I love that. What a great way to end this up. Cheryl, if people want to find out more about you, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
I would say go to my website, which is swimmingwithalligators.com, and you can connect with me there.
And thank you, Cheryl. I so appreciate this. And I know this is, like I said, really good practical stuff that if you're in one of those difficult relationships, whether you're going through a divorce or not, if you're choosing to stay with the person, that's fine too. But these are some strategies that anybody can use over the holiday season. So Cheryl, thank you so much for being here and sharing all your wisdom. And I'd like to thank you for listening into this first in the holiday season of the D-Shift podcast. Don't forget to tune in again next week. Thanks for listening and supporting the D-Shift podcast. If you would like to attend live trainings by our amazing guests and have a chance to ask questions and get answers from our experts, join the D-Shift crew. For more details and to sign up, head on over to www.divorcecoachforwomen and click on the podcast page.